Welcome to the presentation on objectives. My name is Christopher Turkley. I am a graduate student in instructional design at Western Governors University. Now that the major student characteristics and their reasons for attending class are noted, it is time to focus on developing objectives for yoga class. An objective is a description of the performance you want students to exhibit. In yoga, the performance is practicing specific poses. Note that the objective describes an intended result of instruction rather than the process of instruction. For example, rather than stating that students will practice downward-facing dog pose, the objective would state the intended result, such as being able to lengthen the muscles on the back of the legs or to strengthen the arms. The definition of the word objective is a thing aimed at or sought, or a goal. Synonyms are aim, intention, target, and purpose. Many yoga teachers are already using the concept of intentions in their yoga classes. Reasons for stating and using objectives include: they provide a clearly defined foundation for selecting poses to include in the class. They help maintain a focus for the entire class. And they present students with the intended outcome or outcomes of class. Now, objectives are different than the benefits of a pose, although they may incorporate aspects of the benefits. Traditionally, or in other educational contexts, an objective is going to state the audience, this is the who, generally the students, the behavior, this is what the student is expected to do, the condition, these are the tools and resources that will be available to the student when performing the skill, and the degree, this is the criterion of acceptable performance. To give an example of a complete educational objective, this is the objective that I wrote for this lesson, being lesson 4 of this workshop. Given a yoga lesson plan template, yoga teachers will write at least 2 objectives that are relevant to the yoga pose sequence and will receive a score of 2 out of 2 on the rubric. Now, let's talk about objectives in a yoga class. As you probably figured out, using a traditional objective doesn't make sense for yoga, especially because we are not testing the students. For yoga class, students show up to practice poses, which in and of itself is an objective. Because every class is about practicing yoga poses, objectives will be more about stating intentions for class rather than specifying the behavior, condition, or degree. Objectives are already being used in some yoga classes. For example, in Vinyasa class, the objective is to build heat. In Yin Yoga class, the objective is to stretch ligaments and tendons. When writing objectives, the objective should be as specific as possible in order to inform the students of the goal of class. Verbs to use include increase, develop, stabilize, strengthen, and lengthen. Think of the poses that the students will practice and write what types of physical abilities they need to accomplish the pose. For example, rather than writing an objective that says to practice back bends, write what the students will be able to do to perform the back bend, such as flexible spine, core strength, stabilized low back, leg strength. These are the types of things that would be listed in the objectives. Lastly, think about how the objective can be measured. Even though we are not testing the students on their ability to master the objective, it is still a good idea to think about how you can have the students observe that they did or did not meet an objective. For example, if the objective of class is to increase range of motion in the shoulders, include some type of pose or reflection where the students first notice their range of motion. Then, at the end of these poses, have the students repeat the reflection or the beginning pose in order to notice if there is a change. Here are some examples of objectives for yoga classes. A generic objective that would fit almost every yoga class would be to lengthen and strengthen muscles. More specific objectives include to increase flexibility of the spine, to stabilize the low back, to develop an equanimous mind, to increase range of motion in the shoulders, to increase stamina, to strengthen the arms, to develop core strength. Yoga class objectives are informed by the information gleaned from the learner analysis and student motivation. Remember, these are the main points from the student characteristics and their reasons for attending class. This will enable you to customize a class for your students. This will make it relevant, engaging, and motivating. Write 2 to 5 objectives for class. These should be concrete concepts to be mastered. The objectives need to be related to the yoga pose sequence. So, what comes first? The objectives or the yoga pose sequence? It is really up to the teacher. The teacher may decide on the objectives first and then determines the sequence of poses. For example, the teacher may want the objectives to be to develop and increase core strength and to increase low back stability. Based on these objectives, the teacher would write the sequence of poses. Or, the teacher may determine the sequence of poses first and then write the objectives. For example, the teacher may want to focus on hip openers and develops a class that links these poses together in an interesting way. After finalizing the sequence of poses, the teacher would write the objectives, such as to increase range of motion in the hips. Ideally, the objectives and yoga pose sequence are written concurrently. I thank you for watching this presentation, and I wish you much success in this workshop.